What's up, YouTube goers? I'm the Martian Gamer, and it's really late at night, but I've been toiling with this theory that I had after playing the second Dream Quest, which was that Lotus actually was Margulis. I'm sure I'm not the only one to think that, because it's a pretty easy conjecture to make. You know, well, firstly, Margulis in the voices that you hear when you're doing the moon missions sounds a lot like the Lotus. Also, just another random thing is that the Lotus created the Dexdocra and Dex Furies, and so that implies that she has engineering expertise to a certain degree, and Margulis was like a brilliant engineer person. Of course, those are both completely inconclusive. They're just kind of like sweetening. They're like cherries on top, you could say. So we gotta get into the meat. I'm gonna put this down. Jesus, I'm sure you could hear the clicking. I have that in a lot of my videos. I need to stop fiddling with things on my tables. Um, but yeah, no, to get into the meat of the theory. So, all right, we've got. Firstly, I want to establish one thing about Margulis, and it's that in the moon missions we heard statements such as how can you love these monsters after what they did to you, something to that degree, and then Margulis replies, love sees not with the eyes, but with the mind. Now, because of this, I think that Margulis actually was blind. Dang it, I picked it up again. She was actually blinded by the Tenno energy or something to that effect, much like how Ember in Fear did like burnt uh Kali, is that what her name was in the Ember Prime Codex and such. So I believe that Margulis was actually blinded, and this was one of the reasons I first, thought of the theory was because I've thought from the beginning that Lotus's helmet is a seeing apparatus, like Geordie LaForge's visor, for instance. That may or may not be true, and we'll get to an alternate proposal in a bit, but that was what kind of spurred this for me. Next was then later in the mission, this is what partially reinforced it. Margulis is talking when she's like standing before the council or something to that effect because they follow this up with seven hands, you're gonna die or something like that. And she says, "You Orican is so perfect on the outside, but you're all rotted on the inside," or something like that, all rotted within. And the fact that she says "you Orican," like for instance, if I was standing in a trial of people, I wouldn't say, you know, you humans, unless I was being truthful, because I'm pretending to be a human. But I am a Martian, so actually I would say you humans if we were being like just straight up, and then I would proceed to destroy Earth. Um, but if I was keeping my cover as being a human, then I would say you people are crazy or something like that. And it's possible that Orican in their like dialect is just synonymous with people, or it can be used that way. But the way she says it, the way she puts emphasis on Orican, like you Orican, like that's a big deal. And that's Margulis, not Lotus, because we know Lotus is a sentient to a certain degree at least. Um, but yeah, next we have the Mirage Codex. No, sorry, not the Mirage Codex. The statements that Lotus has of memories returning to her from Hidden Messages quest. And in that, she talks about how she's trying to save Mirage. She's trying to surge the revive system. She doesn't want to lose Mirage, who's being attacked by sentients. And then there are faceted eyes watching Mirage, and she sees the eyes open, and she's blinded by the heat. So the Lotus was blinded. I mean, that could be figurative, but she literally says she was blinded by the heat. And since she wears the helmet, whether Margulis is that or not, I'm gonna go with that. Um, because it seems plausible. And then the problem is now that we have all the lore from the second dream and we know what the Tenno are, it says there were shackles around her warframe and like she's trying to surge the revive system. Well, that's something that has to do with warframes. Unless by revive system she's referring to like some Orokin grade defibrillator or something to that effect, and she is talking about using it on the real human. Because the problem with this is it can't be about the Warframe because there's nothing wrong with losing the Warframe, right? There's no horror. It's just a Warframe. It's just a suit. It's just a mindless golem controlled by devil minds. No, but that leads me to believe that it might be she might also be Margulis because what could happen is this, and I see this narrative in my head that like because Mirage lost to the Sentients, well, it also says that her Warframe disintegrates. So because she lost, she's like they want to keep the Warframe technology out of sentient hands, or it's just because she lost they deem her like a worse pilot or something like that. And perhaps they're going to switch her over to like the group for dissection because they want to get as much out of it. If she's not good at fighting, they want to get as much out of her as they can, right? So the actual operator is going to be killed by the Orokin because she lost, which is why Lotus slash Margulis wanted to serve the revive system, wanted to get her working again. She wanted to make it so that before they saw the report of the battle, she'd actually won no matter what. Um, because she's quite close with her. So what I see is the reason I see the eyes open is because she's actually being taken out of the dream because she as the operator is going to be killed. And then what I think happens is either because the mind naturally panics the body and the mind when you're dying, or because her death just releases a bunch of Tenno energy. Either way, she releases lots of Tenno energy from this, and the Lotus is blinded by the heat. I I think. So the faceted eye would be like some kind of like dissection, like medical apparatus for looking at her or something like that. And we know that Oregon did have things like that. They had security eyes, as we saw in the second Dream mission. So that would be that scenario, and in which case the Lotus was blinded, or Margulis was blinded, and then she proceeds to escape her death sentence and become the Lotus. At this point, you might be wondering, well, if the Lotus is Margulis, what she's a sentient. We pretty much know that. So what? How is she Margulis? Well, the thing is, I essentially think she was a plant. I think she was like a spy that was sent by Hunhao to infiltrate Orokin society, and he even said like we let them defeat us. Um, or we let them defeat me, sorry. We let them defeat me. So the defeat of the Sentients was intentional. It was according to their plan, essentially, that the Tenno were going to defeat the Sentients, and then they were going to come back, and with everything lax, I guess Lotus was going to have convinced them to slaughter all the people. Well, yeah, either she was going to convince them to slaughter all the people, or she was going to like disconnect the Tenno from their warframes, because it's implied in the Rhino Prime Codex that the warframes have a degree of sentient, or well, have a degree of sovereignty. We'll say they don't really think um, without their operators. In fact, they probably are infested. They're probably literally just a suit of armor filled with infestation and then supercharged by the Tenno's energy, and that's how they're connected. Which would also explain why Mirage's Warframe like disintegrates when the operator is killed. That might be a thing. Like the operator's Tenno energy actually holds the Warframe together at like a cellular level or something, or an atomic level. Also, the Jordis Golem says we are of the same flesh. I think it's the Jordis Golem. And Infested Boss says we are of the same flesh. And although it's technically not, you know, it's not something you can use as definitive evidence, Dark Sector is a spiritual successor, although it's not a canon prequel. It's a spiritual successor, so I could see how those ideas could easily get crossed over from the whole Tenocyte virus and that kind of stuff. The Orkin had already created the Tenocyte virus actually in canon lore, so it would be not too much of a stretch for them to just like the um shift that biotechnology essentially to a new purpose. Also, they say these aren't Dax soldiers in the Moon Quest. One of the statements, one of the whispers was, "These aren't Dax soldiers. They're golems, controlled by devil minds." And what is you got the Jordis golem, right, representing an infestation of technology. So it's like the Warframes very well may be like essentially suits of armor with robotics in them or something to that effect that have then been infested and then connected to the operator. Where was I going with that? Where was I going before that? Oh yeah, so Lotus may have just disconnected the operators and then the Warframes proceeded to instantly slaughter all the Orokin or something to that effect. Um, but at this point, it's out of her own hatred for the Orokin. It's not out of her. She's not following Hun Hao's orders. And this is either because she just doesn't want to anymore, or because of the way Hun Hao keeps referring to like her as malfunctioning to a certain degree. I think this is even more plausible. Oh, all right. I'm actually close to. Okay. I think this is plausible is that the Lotus was connected to him somehow because she says Hun Hao's mind is split between all of his fragments or all of his body parts. Is that how he's invading mine? Which implies that she's somehow under his umbrella. I mean, she is his daughter, so I think that's fair to assume. So he can see her thoughts. So she's like under his umbrella, and so she might have been just doing what he said. And I think then when Mirage exploded or something to that effect, or just from being around the Tenno for so long, the void energy, which is poison to the sentience, like took out Hun Hao's influence from her. Because I think it's poisonous to the sentience energy or their mind or whatever it is, not actually like whatever if their physical forms were, if they had physical forms. Um, yeah, because it's implied that the sentients can't enter the moon no matter what. And um I feel like the Lotus is on the moon, right? Where else would she be? I mean, she has the Tenno there. Maybe she's not, but I'm pretty sure Lotus is on the moon. Yeah. The other possibility though is that the faceted eye was actually the Lotus's faceted eye. And Margulis was within Nata. Margulis was like a sentient, just like the Warframes have their own sentience, but are controlled by an operator. Margulis was like an organic body that was controlled by Hun Hao's mind, and that link was then Nata, quote unquote, which is why he refers to her as malfunctional. And the reason she said she was so far away, even though she could feel the heat, was she's not far away physically. She's far away from capability. She can't help Mirage because Hun Hao has her. And at that point, she would have been wearing the helmet the whole time then. So that would be kind of a different story. But Hun Hao has control of her mind, and then the release of void energy would have like messed some stuff up with that link once again, just like in the other possible like theory. And and basically disconnected her so that the Margulis inside could take control. And that's when she started acting within the Tenno's benefit and didn't want to actually kill them. Something like that. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I forgot anything else. Um, the Orkin also totally knew about the Void's properties and that it was poisonous to the sentients and that it would have some effects on the humans. because it said in the Excalibur lore, Excalibur Prime Codex, that they turned to the void and they sent people there. Like it's basically implied. It's not directly said, but it's basically implied that they sent people there to get superpowers. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna try and think. So yeah, I've kind of been going over part of what I said so far. Also, it was Lephantis, I believe I checked, that says, "Why do you destroy us? We are of your flesh," implying, well, the Warframe, like the quote-unquote story wiki, which is complete speculation, it even has the disclaimer, says that the Tenno were infected with the virus and only infested could actually sustain the void energy. I think that's crap. I think it's that the Warframes themselves are a form of infested weapon, like infested technology, biotechnology is used in creating them. And at the same time, this also could correlate to the end of the second dream scene when the thing pulls the sword out and like defeats the Stalker essentially, right? It's doing that of its own volition. Originally, I thought that was just because you had boosted the somatic link so much with your void energy that you were connected again partially and you could do that, but with the Rhino Prime Codex and with the infested part, I don't necessarily think that. Also, it works really well with this because the sentients are essentially like a different form of life possibly. I mean, they literally like fragments of his quote unquote body are these multiple, like almost psychically controlled and levitated things that fly around in swarms and attack, right? They're like a completely different entity. Their mind is like so far beyond what we would even interpret. And because of this, while Tenno operators, while Orokin operators may be able to subjugate an infested golem, essentially, with their void energy, the sentients probably have complete organisms. And this is going back to what I was saying about Nata, right? And how, like, she may have that faceted eye might have been hers, or it might not, but this still applies. That Nata was like the link, Nata was the sentient version of Margulis. Margulis was like the host body. Margulis was essentially, well, a fragment, if not even like a Warframe to a certain extent, but not a strong Warframe. Um, because Lotus makes a quote that says, "Nata was the daughter I just," or she says, "I destroyed Nata. She was the daughter. I am the mother." Something to that extent. But the "I destroyed Nata" part is very important because it's like you could take that figuratively, like she destroyed her, but no, I think I will take it more literally, where like she took control of herself from Nata. She destroyed that part of her mind, that sentient nature. Although really, I think it was the void energy of the Tenno that destroyed that sentient nature. Um, but yeah, and then Margulis, newly reborn, was sentenced to death, but because she's like a sentient and like just legit, she escaped that obviously and began her new life as the Lotus. Oh crap. What is this? Yes. Oh yes. What? Okay, that probably sounded awkward. I'm like trying to copy and paste a bunch of files and it's glitching out at the same time, which is great because I don't want that to happen. Um, but yeah. Hmm. Is there anything else like really important that I wanted to cover? Hunhow, Hunhow. There's also the possibility that the burnt lotusy type figure we see for Hunhow is literally just like for style and doesn't have anything to do with it. And Hunhow's mind is Hunhow is completely a mental entity that just switches between bodies. In which case, Nata could have been completely under his control. She would be once again like under his umbrella. Um, but yeah, I see that whole part with Mirage is like her eyes open because she's out of the dream. She's waking up. In fact, I see the eyes open part might be figurative. She just means I see her waking up, and doing so releases some void energy and is bad. I don't know. To be honest, I would like if we were doing what I think is legitimately most likely, I would chalk that up to just lore inconsistency because it wasn't they didn't have like the full lore planned out yet. That's what I would expect. DE is what I mean. But I'd like to think that there's a bigger meaning behind all of it, so I'm going to. And yeah, also the Lotus is oh, well, one other thing to account for is that in hidden messages, those memories are specifically like they were blocked, but she's regaining them. So that's really important to note. And what else? Like, so how about that? Yeah, those memories could have been from her time as Nata, for instance. Although I don't know why she would be so hell bent on keeping the Tenno alive then in that case. It's very difficult. It's very like, what are the Sentient's motives? Why is Hun Hao a destroyer of worlds? Why isn't he a, you know, rose gardener? That's what I would be if I was like a multi-bodied super consciousness being, question mark, you know? But yeah, um, what else is there? Crap, 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 crap. I think that might be about it. Lotus, Lotus, Lotus. Oh yeah, just obviously Margulis's favorite flower was the lotus, and the lotus is the lotus. We could say she's doing it out of honor for her, but Margulis loved the Tenno. Lotus loves the Tenno. I mean, I'm just trying to make sense of it. To be honest, I think that some parts of the lore collide because they were from different like designations of lore. For instance, the prophet like video of Aladvine, all that stuff doesn't really apply anymore because there's no reason for them to be all like, we need to save that Tenno, we need to save Mag, because it's not like Mag's gonna actually die. It's just a suit she's controlling, and it's like, oh no, they get a suit. I mean, I guess they're pretty valuable, but there's not that conviction behind it, which is really important. So it's really difficult for me to say from that perspective. But I think it could be Lotus's eye, could be the faceted eye, and like Margulis is too far away. But I think Lotus now is some kind of like ratio between the two. She said she destroyed Nata, but what did she do with Margulis? You know? Or was Margulis just another Orokin? I just find that unlikely. The way she talks about the Tenno, it just feels so Lotus. It feels so much like the way Lotus talks when she's specifically made to be sympathetic and like really caring because, yeah. I don't know. I am really tired. I might expand on this. I might do a follow-up video or something if I come up with new ideas or make annotations or something. But anyway, nonetheless, for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you stuck with it through all of this, if you like the theory or think it's plausible or something, then leave a like. That'd be much appreciated. And I would be interested to hear all of your opinions. So comment with what you think is up. And if you have anything, you have a completely alternate thing, or you want to expand on what I said, or you have something contrary to what I said, I I'd be interested in it all. Very curious. Yes, and if you want to see more Warframe videos and theories and content and that kind of stuff, then subscribe because I will be doing more in the future. Anyway, yeah. Once again, thanks for watching and have fun.